There's been another Loch Ness Monster sighting. Hold on. Hold on. Oh, periscope. Alright. This will be a fun one. What's up, bag lovers? I'm Jeremy, and it's pronounced bag. Today, we have a CarbnLabs turbo inlet kit. I think it's the whole kit for V9, Audi S5 or 4. When I say it's the whole kit, so I have a 034 Motorsport intake on my car, and so what we're gonna do is look at how we mount this turbo inlet up to that system. And we're honestly sort of a little bit of a pilot for that. We're also going to do a second video where we show you how to mount this up to a stock box. So first 034, because that's what's on my car right now. And honestly, we might not get through every video today. What you get in the kit is your turbo inlet, and this is a huge improvement over stock and even the aftermarket stuff. Like, you can see how big your inlet is and the way it reduces down all the way up to a bigger flange that goes right on your turbo inlet. Out of all the ones on the market, this one is the one that I've heard and read the most consistently good reviews about, where people actually can feel a little bit of improvement. Some of the additional parts that we have, are this carbon fiber piece, which is made up to the air filter that's in the 034 box. And again, full disclosure, we'll see if this all works for the first time. It's sort of a pilot or beta model. And then there's a couple other silicone connections if we need to make any adjustments for different options, as well as other carbon fiber pieces for your stock airbox connection. Not really clear on what this is yet, but it may have to do with your ability to extend this and make it sort of a cold air intake and get that air filter down a little bit more into the open space that is available in the area where the airbox sits currently. I just thought of that right now while I'm saying this.
I think you're right.
It makes sense to me, but what do I know? So we're gonna do our best to show you how we installed this and hopefully create a good situation. All right, so the tools you'll need: flathead screwdriver, this close, Phillips head screwdriver, at least in my case. We've got a T30 Torx on a mini ratchet, and my mini ratchet isn't the same as Johan with CarbnLabs on his video, so you may want to refer to that. This is meant to be supplemental, but we have come up with an alternative in case the space is tight in there, which is a tiny 1/4 and then a T30 bit, and then we're just going to put it in there and see how it works. Hopefully it works good. And then of course you've got your O-ring, and in order to deal with O-rings, I've got some food grade petrol gel. It's just a lubrication. It's good for O-rings and rubber and stuff. Also going to use it to make sure I get the any of the fittings together. So that includes this part onto this flange here. Johan uses motor oil. I'm going to use this because I don't have any motor oil on hand. Potentially at this end to make sure this fits together nice and stuff also. There's also these clamps that are going to have a socket size. I think it's 10 millimeter. Welcome to step one. We're going to remove this. If you haven't done it before, it's pretty simple. There's a button on the back here that apparently I can't operate. You just push it in and that pops off. So that is step one. Put it somewhere safe. And by the way, do not then close your hood at any point during your project until you have this part back on.
Because why? How do we know that?
Because we good at one. So the next step is you can pull this out and then remove plastic shroud. Okay? Now you can see all this off and stuff. The reason we're doing this is because of step 2.
Step 3. That was step 2.
Well, let me...
Maybe that was like step 1B.
We're gonna just stop recording for a second. Before we get into step 3, there's an amendment to the tools you need section of this video. You also need a T25 Torx in order to remove this portion of your air inlet to your air box. There's 2 screws down here, so we are going to remove them. 1, 2. Now your air scoop is off, which will allow you to remove your air box when we get to that point. All right, step 4, remove this dude. Step 5, I think I'm on the right step, loosen these clamps here. And this will allow us to remove the stock air box, or the 034 air box, if that's which video we're watching. Ready?
Yep.
Step 6, remove the 034 Motorsport elbow and place it on the side. Step 7 is remove...
Do that.
Probably do better than I did. But remove your 034 air filter and air box.
By yanking it straight up.
Yeah. All right. Step 8. Remove the filter from your 034 Motorsport part. It will fit on the reducer that's provided by CarbnLabs. So, promise, I've done it. Cool. All right, so we got the band clamp that came with the 034 Motorsport kit. We just put that back on. I'm gonna put it on loosely until we have a chance to kind of dry fit everything. And then we'll make some adjustments there. But so far so good. Now we move on to getting the rest of the parts off here and fitting this in there. All right, so the next step is we're gonna start pulling this off, and before we do that, what we wanna do is we wanna remove these little clips on the harness. There's one here, there's one here, there's one down here. And this one is just sitting, it kind of holds itself in place over the threads of a bolt similar to this one. So we're just going to pop that off, and then we're going to remove this, and these are just those pressure clips that you've seen, you know, in other parts of your car, maybe like right here, right? Something similar to that. So we're going to pull those off.
Let's see how they come off. Yeah. There's one. Be careful what you're using as your fulcrum when you're pulling. Kind of tricky. Trying to do this without.
So if you shove your screwdriver up in there, it kind of, it'll kind of collapse these points. So there's these little points in these clips that are made to bite into the plastic. So if you get your screwdriver kind of down into one side and lift it up, that might help you out. That's how I was able to do it anyways. On this particular one down here, just be careful, but it comes off. Now those should be out of the way, or at least movable, because our next step is getting to this hose. And I don't honestly remember what step we're on. So if you're keeping track, you let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'm gonna try and figure out. There's supposed to be a tab right under here that you can reach with your finger. I kind of do. I can kind of feel it. And then you should be able to use your flathead screwdriver to pry this off, and I can't right now. So apparently in watching Johan's video with CarbnLabs, there is a tab underneath here that you can get off with a screwdriver. I'm having a little trouble with this on mine right now, so what we're going to do is we're going to just go ahead and pull it off at this point carefully. You can remove the hose there. It actually comes off a little bit more difficult than that. So be careful, but it pulls just straight off. I want to get this thing off, and then I'm going to deal with how to get that off without screwing something up. So our next step is then going to be to get to this bolt right here. And there's another one right under here underneath. All right, next we're going to remove these two bolts. The first one on the top should be pretty easy, I hope. Maybe. I literally just, there we go, had it in there. Again, it's a T30. So the second one is a little bit more difficult to get to. And I'm going to see if this will work, and it won't. It's too long. So if you've got this type of setup, it's going to be too long.
We're on.
All right, so full disclosure, kind of screwed up. I had a T30 Torx bit, and I used this 1/4 inch wrench. It's got a box wrench on one and open on the other. And I used this magnet. And if you want to know what you're supposed to get, bug Johan, because he's got a pretty cool little ratcheting setup that works right. But I was able, with the first T30 Torx bit I had, to put it on the magnet, get it situated in there, get a finger in there, and hold it in place. Then take this box wrench and get it on there. If you had a 1/4 inch one of these, then you would be sitting a lot prettier from the start, because you could just do that. I unfortunately only have millimeters, and 8 is the one that will come the closest to fitting this. And so at the suggestion of my super smart brother-in-law Adam, I have wrapped tape around this to make it the right size. And so now it's wedged in there, right? We can use this without fear of it like falling out super easy. We did use the 1/4 inch on the bit in order to break it loose, so we don't have to go through that process. So we're gonna see how this works right about now.
Before you do that, can I ask you a question?
You sure can.
Could you, at this point, you take your fingers in the bit and just spin it, or is it just still too tight?
The problem with doing that is I can't get my hand down there in a position that would allow me to spin the bit.
Yeah, it's
it's really difficult to get down in there. Is it on an RS5?
I don't know.
I think it's
Remember the Inlet on his video didn't have that second nipple that we were wondering about.
Yeah. All right. So there we go. I was giving it a tiny turn at a time. And it's like so loose right now that the ratchet doesn't want to like.
So what you're saying is have some patience.
Yep. So after a whole bunch of little turns, I was finally able to get the screw loose. And now if I can only get my tool out of the way. Okay. That out of the way. And then I think we can pull the inlet out. This wiring harness is so in the way. Actually, there's another hose underneath here. So we're gonna have to figure out how to deal with that. So there's a tiny hose under here, and what we are attempting to do is get it off of this inlet pipe. So it feels like it's really difficult to get to. I think you're supposed to be able to squeeze. If you can see, there's two sort of knurled bits here. It looks like you're supposed to be able to squeeze them and pull them off. I think the challenge is that it's on there really tight.
Squeeze with all your might.
I'm squeezing all the way down. That's the pulling it off part.
Yeah.
Not happening.
We're rolling.
Alright, so we watched the CarbnLabs video, and he looked like middle fingers on each side underneath. I can get good pressure here. And then he just pulled it up.
And you break it all.
If it's broken, it's Johan's fault. And it's not.
But it worked.
Yeah, no, it worked good.
Here's what it looks like.
So you can see here that as you push this, it opens these two clips. So, you know, push that nice and hard. Don't be afraid to lift up. Now that leaves us to deal with this guy here, which we thought Johan was saying pull on this tab and pry with a screwdriver. And I just don't see that working. Maybe I'm too afraid to break something. Maybe not. Yeah.
In any case, you can just keep spinning it around.
Yeah. No, I'd like to get this done, so...
6.5 hours later.
Oh my god.
Well, you got it.
Yeah.
Can you see anything like that would have helped you understand?
No. Nope. I think you gotta do all the stuff I just did. I mean, or be Johan. Johan must have the magic touch. What I ended up doing in the end was depressing these tabs. And again, we took this off first, which is different than the CarbnLabs video. I'm not gonna lie, I have a pretty strong grip, and I was able to push these all the way down to the plastic. But even so, getting my screwdriver in and trying to pry this off wasn't very fruitful. So what we ended up doing was just pulling this off, taking the whole thing off, and I mean, as you saw, essentially I was able to just kind of twist it around slowly, use the pipe to pry up individual parts like if you were opening a paint can, and then get to a point where I thought I could just pull it apart. I mean, I can't be more descriptive than that. The concern with that is, though, is like, beware, like this is kind of soft plastic around here. Now, obviously we have a hose that's gonna go on right here. And it is gonna fit just fine. Just, again, beware that you don't want to chew that up too much. So, I don't know if you call that a top tip or like, this is how it went for me.
I think it's the hashtag the struggle is real.
Yeah, the struggle is definitely there. You guys want to see me lose my O-ring? So I'm just using this white food grade grease. It's what I have on hand because I use it for the O-rings in my brewing. But I'm just gonna throw a little bit on the outside of this O-ring here, and this like very lightly. I don't really particularly want this getting all throughout the engine, but what it will help with is seating this O-ring in the flange here and helping it stay in place. No, I don't have to worry about that just like falling out or whatever because it's slightly sticky. I think Johan or CarbnLabs recommends using some sort of adhesive spray. I'm gonna go with grease.
I did, but
All my blade
Oh, you can cut it however you like. There's
Alright.
plenty of it to be.
So we got this here flange. I'm going to stick the top one in first. Just so it holds it in place. And then I don't know how I'm going to do this. One thing I'm going to try. Alright, so just a quick comparison. These are the new bolts that you get from CarbnLabs, and these are the ones that are in the old Inlet. The nice thing about the new ones is you can use your fingers to tighten these in a little bit, whereas these ones had this flat head. There's really no way to get in and do anything with them unless you had a tool or the torques. So the first thing we're going to do to get this in place is we'll take the bottom one, we'll push it all the way in, and if you have two middle fingers or two index fingers or perhaps two ring fingers, you should be able to pull this off. So we're going to get it in here and line it up with the hole, which I can't see right now because I've just been staring at the flash on my camera. So I'm kind of doing this stuff. Alright, so you want to pull this hose up out of the way a little bit to fit the hose in there, and then you can get okay. You can feel when you get the bolt into the hole, and you can use your two middle fingers, ring fingers, or index fingers to start turning everything. So we got the bottom bolt in by kind of shifting it this way and using, for me, because I got what apparently are man sausage fingers, I used my middle two fingers to do this action and twist that bolt on till at the point it was almost tight. And then we put in the top bolt, and next we're going to tighten them with your Allen wrench, which is 5mm.
5 mil.
How to deal with it. Alright, so next we're going to do a little bit of a dry fit. This is going to be a tight one, so I think we have to come up under this wiring harness and somehow shove this little hose down and then get this mug right on there. And I'm going to put some lubey stuff on there so it'll be better. And if you remember from our previous step-episode, we got this hose that needs to go from here and then connect here. So the only other thing that's a little bit different about this setup is this hose.
There it is.
This hose right here. Okay. So if you've watched the CarbnLabs turbo inlet video, there's a couple of differences between the one that I got, which is revision 2.0. It's got this metal insert here, and it's up much closer to where the airbox is than previous. And if you come look here, you can see this is the hose that we're trying to attach to. So what was sent with the kit is this piece of hose here, which I believe gets attached here and then up to this part. So we're going to attempt to do that now and see how it goes. So the hose is probably going to end up being bent just a little bit like that. I haven't lubed this, but I'm going to try and just shove this in here and see what happens. Okay, so now that we've got this hose in place, we're just going to try and get it out of the way for now. We've also got this other small hose coming in here that we're going to push down because it's sort of in the way. If you see, we're going to need to get this in and on the new flange. And we're going to do that coming right in between these two parts of the wiring harness. So I'm not sure how this will go. And actually, if you watch Johan's video, he lubricates the inside of the inlet.
Make sure you get your clamp on.
And make sure, yeah, you put your clamp on here. So I think I'm going to take a little bit of that white grease, just a little bit, and I'm going to lubricate the inside of it so we can slide onto the outside of that flange a little bit easier. I don't know if you saw, but I took like a very, very small amount just to get past the lip there, because I feel like once we get it on and in place, it should be fairly straightforward. So it's a challenging spot here. There, I wonder.
Need to take the whole thing off.
I was just gonna say, I wonder if I can just take this off and slide it under. I think that's gonna have
You're
to
still
be.
gonna need to put the turbo inlet on a little bit further, I think, just based on how much room you have on the bottom side compared to the top.
There we go.
Don't be afraid to lose it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that is good advice. There we go. Right here. It's just in that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we're back.
Yep. So we've got this on. We've got the clamp on. You know, basically we ended up releasing the nut on it to kind of put it in place, and then reconnecting it just so we could slide it under as necessary. So we want to make sure the inlet is on as much on the bottom as it is on the top. Alright, so what we see now next is that we've been given a length of tube here that isn't necessarily cut to length. I got a few extra inches here. Remember, this is coming from that hose underneath. We're just working on getting this part sorted out. So as you can see, I've got a 90-degree elbow, which allows this piece of hose to be cut to length and then route down in here to that connection right there without any kinks in the hose. And what we had in there before was this piece of aluminum stud that was going in there, and then the hose had to come around. Anyways, I was able to get this universal 5/8 inch 90-degree elbow. It's a heater hose elbow. So you can push that in and get it all situated the way you need to, and it should be well clear of where the air scoop comes in here. So we'll get that installed and move on to the next steps. You want to get this hose in place. I think before we tighten this up, I want to put it on here. And it's important when you do, you get it all the way seated. So there's like one click, which gets it on. Maybe that's it.
Maybe there's a double.
Yeah, I think there's a double click. There's your second click. So then this goes right in here. And it just pushes on as best I can tell. Good God. Maybe.
You might have it pushed on a little bit too far on this side.
so I got that one on. That's all back.
Just like Nathan's Blueberry friend. That might not be a
Widespread saying. Alright, let's see how this works. Okay, there we go. So this is why we dry fit, because obviously that's a bit too long.
It's quite long.
So we're gonna want to probably seat this all the way in here. Still on the long side. Now my grommet has come off. Some space between the filter, the reducer, and the inside. I don't know if a seal right here is critical. If it is, I'd have to cut right here in order to push that back. So, anyways, let me know your thoughts on those things, and I'll keep working. All right, everybody. So it's we've been working on some things, and this kind of funky thing here is a new. I'll put a link down in the description, but if you get like a K&N filter or whatever, it's got a wire and it clamps on really good and it'll make a seal. I forget what it's called, but it helps take up some of the space. We still have another option where we're gonna put a piece of 5-inch ID intake hose in here, and that might clean it up even more. But for the meantime, we got this on, and we ended up shortening up this part of the silicone inlet tubing just so we could get it in and make this fit a little better. It was a little cramped right here, and if you can see, it's still barely touching. There's no pressure on here, there's no restriction at all. This lines up better, everything just fits a little bit better. We've got the 90-degree piece in, which was necessary to connect down in here, which I think we showed you in an earlier part of the video. But this is where we're at. We're just buttoning everything up right now, and I'll provide any updates as we get them done. All right, everybody, so we've been working with CarbnLabs. This is the first documented install of their 2.0 turbo inlet on the 034.
Is your watch talking to you?
Shut up. It's literally been recording me the whole time. It's like a transcript that Siri was trying to figure out. Are you still recording? Okay, so anyways, we've been working with CarbnLabs. Initially there was a bit of a gap just with the grommet that comes with the box. And so I remember putting a K&N filter on some of my other vehicles and using this. It's got like a wire inside and it kind of crimps and grabs on. And if you look at the material, it actually looks like it would make a good seal. The problem is when you bend it in that tight of a radius as we did here, it sort of gets kinky. Anyways, so that's a little bit why it looks like that. It does create a little bit better seal, and more importantly, it keeps this grommet from falling off every time you're trying to make any adjustments here. That was another issue I initially had with this. Once you get it all on, it's fine, but these things don't like to stay on there. If you have the 034 intake, the actual intake, it kind of sucks up against here and makes a good tight seal, holds it in place. I think this has the potential, but in order to make that happen, we'd probably have to cut some of this off as well. My concern is the carbon fiber piece that goes in would start to hit into this bend area, and then I think you're just limited as to how far you'd be able to get in there. So for now, we've got everything. It actually fits quite well. This piece is back in, and there's plenty of clearance for the air intake here. So we're gonna run it and see how it is, but also be looking out for an update where we take that other piece of rubber intake hose and put it here for a little bit cleaner look. And we're back. So we're working on the 034 Motorsport carbon intake, and the made up between that and the CarbnLabs turbo inlet. So wasn't really happy with some of the solutions that we had on there before. Car ran fine, everything was good. We're gonna try one more thing. So this is straight from Johan over there at CarbnLabs. He suggested this part, we ordered it up, we're trying it out. Let's see how it goes. So the part in question is this right here. It's basically a 5-inch ID ring. I'll post the link in the description. And the idea is we're gonna get the 034 box to sit, get seated, make sure everything's in place, and then we're gonna slide that forward and it should look nice and pretty. So the box is in place. Now we're gonna try and slide this up the collar. Push the inlet around a little bit. I'm gonna use both hands and I'll be right back. And there you go. It looks like it was always meant to go together. All right, so it's a little dark out, but you can see final fit and finish here. This is not pinched at all. It fits perfectly. Looks real good with this new fitting here. I'll probably have to get the carbon fiber inlet or intake here, but looks real good. And as soon as it dries out a little bit, we'll get in and do some other 0 to 60 times and see what difference it makes.